of the 10th session of the Conference of Parties of the WHO FCTC.
Para iniciar, vamos a...
As we begin, we will now give the floor to Madam Zandil Dalmani, President of the 10th session of the Conference of Parties of the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. You have the floor, Madam. The President is recognized.
Excellencies, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second plenary session and to the opening ceremony of COP10. Please allow me to extend a special welcome to the guests from Panama that have joined us for this public session. Excellencies, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a great pleasure to welcome you all to this 10th session of the Conference of the Parties to the WHO FCTC. Following the postponement of COP10 last year, a virtual de minimis COP was successfully held in November 2023 to address agenda items essential to the operation of the Convention's Secretariat. I want to thank all the distinguished delegates who participated in that virtual de minimis session. While we deeply regret postponing the in-person session, we are grateful to the government of Panama for working tirelessly to ensure that the COP occurs at this time of the year as planned during the de minimis session. The dedication of the Panamanian government, the Convention Secretariat, working together with the states parties in ensuring that the COP takes place is commendable. This demonstrates the commitment and passion we all have for tackling our everyday challenges and developing solutions to continuously protect present and future generations from the devastating effects of tobacco. Although the past year was challenging, and it has been 5 years since an in-person COP, we overcame the obstacles. With the support from the WHO Secretariat, we have observed significant progress made by the states parties in implementing the WHO FCTC at the global, regional, and national levels. The COVID-19 pandemic forced COP9 to be held virtually, leading to the deferral of some agenda items to COP10, creating an extensive agenda. Nonetheless, the same vigor and zeal you continuously demonstrate for tobacco control, I am confident that we will exhaust all the agenda items within the allocated times. As the President of the 10th session of the Conference of the Parties, I wish you all a productive and memorable deliberation. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
Many thanks to you, Madam President. Good afternoon to His Excellency Francisco Sucre, Minister of Health of Panama, Madam Zandi Dalmani, President of COP10 and of the WHO FCTC, Honorable Madam Adriana Blanco Marquiso, Head of the Convention Secretariat, Honorable Madam Marilyn Solima, Deputy Minister of Health and Sports of the Netherlands, ministers in attendance and representatives of parties to the WHO FCTC and non-state parties, representatives of NGOs and international and intergovernmental organizations, the media, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. We extend the warmest welcome to you on behalf of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Panama, Laurentino Cortizo, to the always ideal and noble city of Panama. It is estimated that the toll is more than $15 million because of tobacco damage, hence the importance of this conference. As we continue, we will now give the floor to Dr. Rudiger Krecht, Director of the Department of Health Promotion of the WHO, who will introduce Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the Director General of the WHO.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, and friends. As the WHO team, backstage and on stage, we are extremely proud to assist you, the FCTC Secretariat, and in the 10th session of the Conference of the Parties of the FCTC today. And if I may add one personal note, I am so grateful to you in the FCTC Secretariat, to you, Adriana, for the extremely close collaboration that we enjoy in fostering tobacco control for you. Today, we gather not only to celebrate the achievements of the WHO FCTC, but also to engage in discussions and decide on strategies and measures that will enable us to unlock full potential. The overarching theme for the FCTC COP10, Together Promoting Healthier Lives, is an extremely important narrative that is not only a priority for WHO General Program of Work for the next couple of years, it also serves as a good basis for mainstreaming WHO FCTC into various health and development paradigms. We have good news on trends in the prevalence of tobacco use. A couple of weeks ago, WHO released the Tobacco Trends Report, revealing continued downward trend in prevalence. 150 countries are successfully reducing tobacco use. While significant progress has been made in recent years, there is no room for complacency as this program is uneven. The moment a government believes it has won the battle against tobacco, the industry seizes the opportunity to manipulate health policies and promote their deadly products. This is an important issue for you to consider. E-cigarettes are the exception to these positive trends. Here, we are increasingly seeing data showing a rapid increase in uptake by children and young people. For this reason, WHO issued a call to action in December 2023, which urges strong, decisive action to prevent the uptake of e-cigarettes based on the growing body of evidence of its use by children and adolescents. We continue to need a health promotion approach to tobacco control. Countering tobacco industry tactics necessitates the successful promotion of health and well-being through complementary and essential approaches, such as health in all policies, whole-of-government approaches, and whole-of-society approaches. One key aspect that has been instrumental in the success of the WHO FCTC is that emphasis on multisectoral action. The interconnectedness of health with various sectors such as finance, education and environment underscores the need for a collaborative approach. The WHO Global Framework on Well-being and Health Promotion outlines that one of the foundations of well-being societies is a strong focus on addressing the main risk factors of non-communicable diseases such as cancers, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes and respiratory diseases. A well-being society has to be a nicotine and tobacco-free society. This is only possible by creating conducive environments for the people, empowering individuals and communities to make informed choices through supportive fiscal and regulatory frameworks that contribute to their overall health and happiness. So in this regard, our Director General of WHO is determined to support tobacco control. Let us now hear what he has to say.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, dear colleagues and friends, I thank Your Excellency and the government and people of Panama for hosting the conference of the parties to the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. Tobacco remains one of the biggest public health threats the world has ever faced, killing an estimated 8.7 million people every year. The economic, social, and environmental costs are massive. About $1.4 trillion a year in health expenditure and lost productivity. More than 20 years since it was adopted by the World Health Assembly, the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control remains one of the world's most powerful tools for health. Together, we have made great progress. We have saved lives. More than 70% of the world's population is now covered by at least one Empower measure implemented at the highest level. Despite all these successes, much remains to be done, especially in low and middle income countries where the tobacco industry is increasingly active. We must continue advocating for urgent and accelerated implementation of the Convention. We must continue to be on our guard against the tobacco industry and its tactics. I'm committed to use the full force of the Convention to promote health, keep the world safe, and serve the vulnerable. I thank you.
Agradecemos al doctor.
We thank Dr. Tedros for that message and, of course, Dr. Tesh for his introduction. It's important that we highlight that every 2 years we hold such meetings to take stock in advances in implementation of the Framework Convention and Protocol and to look at its implementation. Therefore, as part of our meetings, we also take budgetary and financial decisions. I would now like to give the floor to Dr. Hara Barbosa, Regional WHO Director for the Americas and Director General of the PAHO. He also has a message to today's audience. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished authorities and colleagues, it is an honor to address this COP, to welcome you to the Assembly and all observers as well. This meeting has brought us together from all corners of the world because we share a commitment to achieve the dream of a tobacco-free world and free from its consequences. Not only is it harmful to our economies and societies, making them more poor, but it also pollutes our planet. Because of the harm, there's an urgent need to step up innovation, global cooperation, and implementation of existing mandates. This year, this is the 20th anniversary of the adoption of the WHO's FCTC, and this was adopted by the World Health Assembly, and soon it will be 19 years since it became international law. The FCTC is a historic treaty which has underpinned our global efforts to reduce the devastating impact of tobacco harm. I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the commitment and leadership of Panama in this field. And by hosting this, the 10th session of COP10 and the third meeting of parties to the protocol for the elimination of the illicit trade in tobacco products, Panama is continuing to demonstrate its commitment as one of the world's leaders in defending the cause of tobacco control. We have seen Panama host several preparatory meetings leading up to this COP10, and this was critical to today's event. 2 decades ago, the idea of tobacco-free bars and restaurants was unthinkable, but now this has become the norm. Today, 24 countries from the Americas region protect their people from exposure to second-hand smoke in all indoor public spaces. 21 countries have changed tobacco packaging as a way of warning potential consumers and to ensure that they have accurate information on the dangers of smoking and exposure to tobacco smoke. Although there have been huge strides made, a long road lies ahead of us.
The tobacco industry and its allies continuously market their products aggressively through campaigns that disseminate misleading information. This includes information about new and emerging products such as e-cigarettes and heated tobacco products. While these products are promoted with the so-called benefit of aiding tobacco cessation, they especially target young people who are non-smokers with the sole intention of creating new cohorts of tobacco and nicotine users. Our response must be firm, swift, and uncompromising. This is why I am pleased to extend my congratulations and appreciation to countries such as our host country for acting resolutely in banning the commercialization of these products. Where they are not banned, I call on governments to adopt effective policies such as banning the advertising and promotion of new and emerging tobacco products, banning their use in public places, and other proven measures already agreed in the previous decisions of the COP. Let us ensure that our collective efforts close the gaps in tobacco control. Let us commit to ensure that all countries establish smoke-free environments, mandate effective packaging and labeling of all tobacco products, ban the advertising, promotion, and sponsorship of tobacco, and use taxes to reduce their consumption, among others. While we still have a far to journey, let us remember that our achievements in tobacco control across the globe, grounded in the supranational World Health Organization Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, are a testament that public health measures based on multi-sectoral consensus and robust multidisciplinary evidence are economically, legally, and politically sound. Resolute leadership by political leaders and health authorities is essential to tackle the opposition by the tobacco industry and its allies, as well as to foster coordination with ministries of economy, finance and trade, civil society and academia. This whole of government and whole of society approach has allowed tobacco control measures litigated before international investment and trade jurisdictions to be validated by the respective decision-making bodies and ultimately remain in force. Moreover, lessons learned in tobacco control are applicable in addressing other non-communicable diseases risk factors, such as the harmful use of alcohol and unhealthy diets, where industry used the playbook developed by the tobacco industry to both market it to consumers and attempt to influence regulatory oversight. We must urgently scale up our interprogrammatic efforts to protect the design, implementation, and evaluation of health policies free from undue interference to advance the prevention and control of non-communicable diseases risk factors. As we gather here today, let us remember the countless lives that have been adversely affected, both directly and indirectly, by the devastating consequences of tobacco use, recalling that tobacco use causes more than 80 million deaths worldwide and 1 million deaths in the region of the Americas annually. We must also remember the global economic cost of smoking, which is estimated at losses of $1.4 trillion per year. In closing, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Panama for its leadership role in tobacco prevention and control, and to the WHO FCTC Secretariat for our fruitful collaboration over several years. I am confident that our time here will be marked by meaningful dialogues and significant strides toward a tobacco-free world. I am pleased to welcome you to Panama, a beacon of international cooperation in the battle against tobacco, and let us all work together to make this 10th Conference of the Parties and the subsequent third meeting of the parties both a resounding success. Thank you.
Agradecemos al director.
We thank the director of PAHO for his statement. We will now have a video message as well from Madam Inga Anderson, Executive Director of the United Nations Environmental Program.
So my deep thanks for the invitation to speak at this very important 10th session of the Conference of Parties to the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. My deep thanks also to our friends at the WHO Convention Secretariat for the contribution that our colleagues at the Secretariat are making, and for the strong collaboration that we are having together with UNEP and the Secretariat to really focus on the environmental impact of tobacco. And also our thanks for including this specific item as a topic during your meeting today and during this week. The world knows very much about the deadly and debilitating impacts of tobacco on human health, of course, but it's not so frequently discussed how tobacco also impacts the environment, beyond perhaps the disapproval of cigarette butts littering the streets. But we all know that tobacco has major environmental impacts along the entire life cycle. We know that millions of hectares of forests are cut down every year to cultivate tobacco. And we know that the production process of tobacco emits greenhouse gases equivalent to those generated by about 3 million transatlantic flights each year. And so when it comes to drying tobacco, we also know that wood is often used and cut, and deforestation ensued, and more CO2 is emitted. So tobacco production uses, in addition to what I've just mentioned, it also uses 5 to 8 times as much water as the equivalent production in weight of, say, potatoes or tomatoes. And that's before we even get to that issue of the discarded tobacco packets and cigarette butts, which we discard about 4.5 trillion cigarette butts improperly every year in our streets, in our forests, in our parks, on our beaches, and everywhere else. And these butts break down, as we know, into microplastics, and they release chemicals right into the environment, damaging our environment, our ecosystem, our wildlife, and entering the food chain, and obviously entering our soils. Tobacco across its whole life cycle, therefore, is a clear driver of and a contributor to that triple planetary crisis that we at UNEP refer to, the crisis of climate change, the crisis of nature and biodiversity loss and desertification and land degradation, and of course, the crisis of pollution and waste. Now, obviously, encouraging people to stop using tobacco will reduce the environmental and human health impact. But we at the same time must take action to reduce the impact on climate and nature and pollution across the entire life cycle of tobacco. We also need to be sure that we take care of tobacco workers and make sure that none of them are left behind as we make this transition. That is an important part of our mandate, our mission, and our promise under the SDGs. So friends, the partnership between UNEP and the Convention Secretariat places special focus on the plastics and the chemical aspects. And there are several key processes that can make a very big difference in this regard. Allow me to mention just a few. At the end of September in 2023, the 5th International Conference on Chemical Management, which was a meeting that took place in Bonn, that meeting delivered and delivered big. And we are frankly quite proud of this. It delivered the new global framework on chemicals. This framework is a big breakthrough, and it's based around 28 targets that are agreed by member states. And it is a real opportunity to work towards a world that is free of harm from chemicals and waste. The framework has precise dates and by which certain chemicals will be phased out, and other targets that can be clearly measured. Now, negotiators are also gearing up for the 4th session of the INC, the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, on the legally binding treaty to end plastic pollution. That meeting is scheduled to take place in Ottawa in April. The aim is to finish the negotiations in the last session, which is scheduled to take place in the Republic of Korea and Busan at the end of the year, and get this agreement in place so that we can, together, start to drastically reduce humanity's plastic footprint. The partnership between UNEP and the WHO FCTC Secretariat can contribute to these important processes by continuing to raise awareness about the environmental impact of tobacco. Just as UNEP's wider collaboration with our friends at WHO, including through our Quadripartite Alliance on One Health, can help to alleviate the triple planetary crisis. This high-level session is a testimony to the intensifying collaboration between UNEP and WHO, and to the interconnectedness of the environment and the health agendas. These agendas require solutions that bring multiple environmental, health, social, and economic benefits, such as the solutions you are discussing here at this COP. I look forward to the contribution of the tobacco control agenda to addressing plastics and chemicals to help secure a world free from harm or pollution resulting from the production and management of chemicals and waste, and of course, to creating a more stable climate and a thriving biodiversity. We at UNEP, through our partnership with the WHO, are ready to help implement relevant decisions taken at this COP. And I wish you very much success.
Agradecemos a la señora Anderson.
We'd like to thank Ms. Anderson of UNEP for her statement. We now continue with words from Madam the Deputy Minister of Health and Sports of the Netherlands.
Your Excellencies, dear colleagues, distinguished participants, members of civil society, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Panama, for hosting this event in your beautiful country. Yesterday I had the possibility to visit Lake Gatun and the canal, and I really enjoyed the beautiful scenery of your country. Muchas gracias. I'm delighted to be here with you today and speak at this COP of the Framework Convention for Tobacco Control. I would like to address two things today. First, the Dutch approach to tobacco control, and second, our concerns regarding emerging tobacco and nicotine products and how they affect our youth. These two issues contain some interesting lessons I would like to share with you. I do not need to tell you that tobacco is a significant public health threat. It has just been said already. It's killing over 8.7 million people worldwide each year. For the Netherlands, this number is about 19,000 people per year in a population of 17.5 million people. Nearly 10% of the burden of disease in the Netherlands is caused by smoking, and this makes smoking the main preventable cause of death and disease in the Netherlands. The WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control is our powerful tool to combat this global health threat through evidence-based measures that effectively protect children and adults from initiation and tobacco-related harm. Implementing this treaty is the key to a successful tobacco control policy. The treaty instruments, together with the Empower interventions, such as raising taxes, introducing smoke-free legislation, and banning all tobacco advertising and promotion, are the base of our national approach to tobacco control. For the Netherlands, it's an honor that the WHO acknowledged in July of last year that our country is now one of the 4 countries that implement all Empower measures at the highest level of achievement. And the other 4 and I think this applause also applies to the other 3 countries, which is Brazil, Mauritius, and Turkey. Well, this also creates obligations, at least in the sense that we should actively promote the Empower principles and the Convention instruments and share our experiences, something I gladly do here today. To start, I would like to emphasize 2 important success factors in strengthening tobacco control policy. One is the political will, and the other one is a good cooperation with civil society, or, as it has just been mentioned by Mr. Krech, the whole of society approach. In the Netherlands, tobacco control policy has changed over the last 20 years. In 2002-2003, political decisiveness made it possible to implement a comprehensive ban on the marketing and promotion of tobacco products. And especially the last 5 years, we were able to make great progress, as in 2017, the government decided to adopt the clear ambition of achieving a smoke-free generation and sign a new national prevention agreement. This allowed us, for instance, to raise taxes, to introduce plain packaging, a display ban, and reduce the number of points of sale. In our national prevention agreement, the government has a fruitful cooperation with an active civil society. It was the Dutch Alliance for Smoke-Free Society that created the smoke-free generation movement, which increased the acceptance among the Dutch population for tobacco control measures. And this led to the government adopting the goal of a smoke-free generation in 2040. And this means a maximum of 5% of adult smokers, no youth smoking, and no smoking amongst pregnant women in 2040. Next to the Alliance for a Smoke-Free Society, there is the bottom-up initiative of the Dutch Cancer Agenda. And that's a co-creation of about 100 health organizations, health institutes, patient organizations, and a lot of health professionals. Also, within this agenda, the protection of children and adults from tobacco initiation and tobacco-related harm is one of the main goals. An important lesson would therefore be to cooperate with civil society in order to create social and political support for stricter tobacco control. And secondly, exploit political opportunities when they present themselves and make sure policy making is prepared for the opportunities when they are there. Where are we now? In 2010, we noted a smoking prevalence of almost 27%, dropping to 19% in 2022. This is a reduction close to the voluntary global target of 30% reduction in tobacco use. But it's not enough. We are pleased that the European Union has set a similar target for 2040 in the EU Beating Cancer Plan, and we are looking forward to working together with the EU and strengthening the EU instruments to reach this important ambition. EU regulation has been very important as a baseline for tobacco control, helping us to gradually move forwards. And I already stressed the importance of the FCTC and the work of the WHO to combat smoking. So, a third lesson would be to cooperate internationally. Because we face a global industry, we live in a highly globalized world, and one country can only do so much. A clear example is the raise of taxes, one of the most important tools to bring tobacco use down, and which could be more effective when it's done with all countries together. Another lesson I would like to share with you is that we must look ahead. The tobacco industry always finds new ways to circumvent legislation. This is illustrated by the introduction of alternative nicotine products. As many of you have witnessed, new tobacco and nicotine products are becoming more and more popular, especially amongst young people. These products are supposedly designed to help existing smokers to quit, but in practice, these products mainly attract young people. In the Netherlands, we are very concerned about this. These colorful and fancy products with attractive flavors have become popular amongst Dutch school youth. Nicotine is especially addictive and harmful in young people. Young people are more sensitive to nicotine, and the brain keeps developing up to 25 years of age. Recent figures on the use of tobacco and the use of e-cigarettes amongst young people between 12 and 25 years of age in the Netherlands show a really worrying picture. 1 out of 10 used an e-cigarette in the last month. And of these young e-cigarette users, 70% smoked classic cigarettes as well. This shows us that e-cigarette use and tobacco use go hand in hand. It illustrates that we should not only focus on tobacco, but also on nicotine products, when our goal is to reach a smoke-free generation. We should strive to prevent the uptake of emerging tobacco and nicotine products, especially among the youth. Recently, we in the Netherlands took measures which help in this respect, such as a ban on internet sales for all tobacco and nicotine products, a significant tax raise on tobacco products, and a flavor ban on e-cigarettes. We're also working on a ban on oral nicotine products. We hope to learn from experiences from other parties how they address youth uptake. Taking measures together, makes us more effective in protecting our youth. This COP10 brings us together to face common challenges which require a global answer. For instance, the emergence of new tobacco and nicotine products that are attractive in design and flavor. And we are all faced with innovative marketing strategies using social media platforms with their cross-border challenges. It's important we further develop the framework, and we should not be afraid to be too ambitious, because the outcome of this week in Panama will certainly make a difference in real life and will help us to better protect the health of our youth. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you for your words, Madam Minister, Deputy Minister. We now continue with Dr. Adriana Blanco Marquiso, Head of the Secretariat of the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, who made it possible for us to convene today at the 10th session of the Conference of Parties of the World Health Organization's Framework Convention on Tobacco Control.
Yo siempre soy la más alta.
I'm always the taller one. Honorable Minister of Health of Panama, Dr. Francisco Sucre, President of the Conference of the Parties to the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, Dr. Zandi Dlamini, Honorable Ministers and Heads of Delegations, dear participants, good afternoon. Greetings and a heartfelt thank you to all those who have made this event possible in wonderful and welcoming Panama City.
Y hay mucho trabajo.
A great deal of work went into making today's event possible and for things to run smoothly. You probably don't realize, but there is a great deal of work put in by our colleagues in Panama. This is the first in-person meeting of the Conference of the Parties in 6 years, the first since the COVID-19 pandemic, and the first to be hosted by a party since COP7, which 8 years ago in India. And it is also the first in-person COP for myself as head of the Convention Secretariat. As this is the 10th session of the COP taking place more than 20 years after adoption of the treaty by the World Health Assembly and nearly 20 years after its entry into force internationally, it provides us an excellent opportunity to pause and reflect on what we have achieved and what lies ahead. Trends in the prevalence of tobacco use among adults have shown a steady decline, and my colleague just mentioned this. It went from nearly 33% in 2000 to just over 22% 2 decades later. That's the latest data we have available. And for the first time, the absolute number of smokers is also decreasing despite the continuous growth of the global population. These numbers translate into millions of lives saved and a huge amount of suffering avoided. The convention now has 183 parties, with the most recent additions being Andorra in May 2020 and Malawi in August 2023. Please, let's welcome both of them with a round of applause. I'm pleased to also inform you that the number of countries that have introduced legislation under the convention continues to grow steadily, but not as fast as we would have liked. And I also wanted to recall that it has a related protocol, the Protocol to Eliminate Illicit Trade in Tobacco Products, which is a new international treaty in its own right with 68 parties already signed on. And implementation of the convention continues to vary widely, not only among countries, but also if we compare the measures under the convention from article to article. These implementation disparities can be clearly seen in the 2023 Global Progress Report on implementation of the WHO FCTC. But Allow me to highlight some good news from the Global Progress Report. A growing number of parties have developed comprehensive multi-sectoral national tobacco control strategies. Several parties increased the size of health warnings on tobacco products, and others adopted plain packaging. Parties in 4 World Health Organization regions reported an increase in the average tax burden on tobacco products, although only 1 region meets the benchmark of taxes representing at least 75% of the total retail price of cigarettes. And in hopes of reaching a new milestone, several parties are planning to reduce national tobacco use prevalence to below 5% in what is known as an endgame strategy. Regarding our work at the Convention Secretariat now, we have implemented broad improvements in our processes, making them more efficient. And once again, as my colleague Ruder just mentioned, we have satisfactorily and successfully strengthened relations and collaboration with the WHO, our hosting organization. And I wanted to thank all my WHO colleagues for their efforts as we harmonized our work. In terms of direct country support now, the FCTC 2030 project, made possible thanks to the generous support of Australia, Norway, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, has supported 33 countries and produced other public goods for the benefit of developing countries. Also, during the last biennium, other generous donors such as Canada, Italy, the Netherlands, and Panama made other areas of our work possible. The Secretariat has also expanded its work with other United Nations organizations, particularly in the area of the environment, as you saw from the UNEP Director's presentation. To this end, we have partnered with the United Nations Environment Program to raise awareness and agree on action on the extensive environmental and human health impacts of microplastics in cigarette filters. For this person, we have worked to engage social influencers along with UNEP's Goodwill Ambassadors and Young Champions of the Earth. Last but not least, we are using new communication approaches and improving our digital platforms to disseminate information. And we're also working on new fundraising activities to be undertaken this biennium. So everything looks good. But, what an annoying word, wouldn't you agree? But unfortunately, it's not all good news. Ladies and gentlemen, please let me highlight our 3 main challenges: slow implementation of the Convention, new and emerging nicotine and tobacco products, and of course, interference from the tobacco industry. The COP in 2018 adopted the global strategy to accelerate tobacco control, advancing sustainable development through the implementation of the WHO FCTC, and that runs from 2019 to 2025, which covers implementation of the treaty through the end of next year. Now, while the COVID-19 pandemic may well have been the major reason for the lack of acceleration of tobacco control over the past few years, it is not the only reason. The other 2 challenges I just mentioned, emerging products and tobacco industry interference, certainly have also played their role. Measures that are 100% in the hands of the ministries of health, such as smoke-free environments and graphic health warnings, can and have been implemented by executive decrees in many countries. However, we are still far from universal, comprehensive implementation of these measures globally. And I respectfully invite you, ladies and gentlemen, to ponder this problem. The second challenge I noted, which is the increasing availability of novel and emerging nicotine and tobacco products, has become a very troubling problem. And again, the Deputy Minister of the Netherlands also touched on this, as we see an alarming increase in the use of these products by young people. Of course, part of this increase is due to disingenuous tobacco industry messages, which portray these products as a replacement for real tobacco control measures. as the industry again tries to claim a seat at the table as part of the solution to an epidemic that the industry created and continues to sustain. And this brings me to the last point. The relentless interference of the tobacco industry in every corner of the world. There is no country, big or small, rich or poor, developed or developing, that does not face this kind of interference. Article 5.3 of the Convention and its guidelines for implementation provide a way to end this interference, but unfortunately, it is one of the least effectively implemented articles. In fact, we can measure the importance and impact of this week's meeting by looking at the efforts that the tobacco industry has undertaken in trying to derail not only COP10, but each and every meeting of the COP. We have a great deal of work ahead of us in the coming days, and I trust it will lead to a truly successful meeting. After such a long time apart, it is truly wonderful for all of us to be meeting together, working face to face to confront the tobacco pandemic. Please remember why we're here. Remember, when it comes to tobacco control, our agreements far outnumber our disagreements, and that by banding together, we are stronger. Finally, remember that we are here to protect people from an industry that profits from suffering and death. And in the end, it's truth and what is right that will prevail. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Many thanks to Dr. Blanco for those words. We will now call to the podium His Excellency Dr. Luis Francisco Sucre, Minister of Health of the Republic of Panama, to deliver his inaugural address. On behalf of President Laurentino Cortizo.
Muy buenas tardes.
A very good afternoon to each and every one of you. I associate myself with all the protocols observed by everyone who spoke before me. The Republic of Panama extends to you a warm and brotherly welcome, and it is our hope that your journey to Panama and your stay here will be as pleasant as possible. Panama, recognized as a bridge of the world and the heart of the universe because of its geographic position and because of its interoceanic canal, is honored to have you here with us in our country, because together we can bring about healthy lives. We will work together to achieve the objectives of the WHO's FCTC at this, the 10th session of the Conference of the Parties. As you all well know, in 2003, the FCTC was opened for signing, and that was the first international public health treaty, and for this reason we are commemorating its 20th anniversary. Congratulations to parties for the long and commendable work they conducted on behalf of global public health. We would like to congratulate all participants, and we welcome you with a strong round of applause.
La celebración.
Holding this COP10 is for all of us a time for us to gather together again, because it has been 5 years now since the last in-person meeting after the COVID-19 pandemic. Limited options for us to meet face to face and to greet each other in a brotherly way as we customarily do. COP10 brings us together to take forward the comprehensive implementation, the full and complete implementation of the Framework Convention, and it calls for us to remain united, especially as we seek to achieve the fundamental objective of bringing about healthy lives as we are seeking to do under this convention, and this is geared towards health as a human right. 20 years ago, it wasn't possible to think that a small country such as Panama could sustain an effective tobacco control policy, which would overarch various governments and would consolidate itself into a Panamanian state policy. And we wanted to touch and give you a snapshot of some of the milestones of this. For Panama, smoke-free environments were nothing more than a theoretic notion, a bunch of words, because in that environment, tobacco smoke flowed freely from one end to the next. But now this is a concrete reality for us. We are saving lives because tobacco smoke, that is to say secondhand smoke, is now recognized by our people as toxic and harmful to their health. And this means that the participation of our people and monitoring by our citizens in monitoring the health of their own health and those of that of their families and pets is now their responsibility. Health warnings are recognized as an effective means of conveying information on the harms caused by tobacco products. We discourage use of these products, and we are encouraging smokers to quit smoking, as we can see from our national and international studies. In Panama, almost 5 in every 10 smokers have said that these initiatives are pushing them to quit smoking, which is clear evidence that this message is actually reaching our people, our target audience. There is no doubt as to the negative impact of smoking. And tobacco use causes health challenges, disabilities, and death. And these are risk factors, and it's responsible for 54% of NCDs such as cancer, hypertension, diabetes, cerebrovascular diseases, chronic respiratory diseases, heart diseases, and in the case of Panama, these are among the top 5 causes of death. And as we reflect on this, furthering the objectives of sustainable development, especially SDG 3, will mean that we will have to fully implement the WHO's FCTC as a useful tool to control this scourge, which is undermining the health of our people and all populations. But the industry linked to this scourge is now generating other alternatives, and they're equally addictive, and they're supplying products that are preventing us from achieving full impact in our policies. And this is at the national, regional, and global levels. And as in Article 5.2 of the FCTC states, we now have to adopt legislation that is effective, and we must also cooperate with other parties to come up with appropriate policies to prevent and reduce tobacco consumption, nicotine addiction, and exposure to tobacco smoke. It is necessary that we stress the fact that HTPs and nicotine delivery products are in and of themselves a challenge, a permanent challenge that does not help us, but rather they are undermining efforts by states parties. There's also scientific evidence here in Panama and elsewhere across the world that points to the fact that people who were already smokers, such as conventional cigarettes, are now transitioning to these products. There's existing scientific evidence that shows that since 2009, Panama placed a ban on e-cigarettes, and in 2014, we placed a ban on using them in the same places where smoking was banned, and we have placed a total ban on such products. And this is any other device that could be a part of such means. We therefore placed a ban on the sale and marketing of heated tobacco products, and in 2022 we consolidated national legislation on this in Law 315, which is now before the Supreme Court, where it is being challenged on appeal. I must therefore thank the NGOs and commend them on their work, as well as civil society that are not affiliated with the tobacco industry, for their standing commitment to the WHO's Framework Convention on Tobacco Convention, to the interpreters and everyone who is here with you today in Panama with a single objective: the well-being and health of our populations. Finally, I wish to express that the slogan of the 10th COP is "Together we can bring about healthy lives," and we hope that this will lead to something else, which is we have to look at this closely, because together we can close the gaps in implementation, gaps between the various WHO regions. But beyond that, it is also evident that there are gaps between countries in the same region. Together, we must work to bring about sustained decline in tobacco use in all age groups, and together we must avoid having new smokers, especially young people, and together we must avoid the occurrence of NCDs that are associated with tobacco use. Together we must protect our people's health to ensure that they can have full and healthy lives as a human right. It is our hope that as we address and approach our work, everyone will be sure that it will redound to the improved health of all our peoples. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Muchas gracias, señor ministro, por sus palabras.
Thank you very much for those words, Mr. Minister. We'd like to welcome everyone once again to the Republic of Panama, bathed by the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, which means that we are able to enjoy our cultural diversity and wealth of blend. We'd like you to welcome with a round of applause the dance studio led by Rafael Chung and Odette Cortez. They will dance Panamanian rhythms for you. We thank the folkloric dance studio directed by Odette Cortez and Rafael Chung of Panamanian Rhythms. We now continue with the official photo. We would now like to call on everyone at the head table to come up front for this family photo.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. You can return to your seats.
Sí, por favor.
Yes, please. Take your seats.
Concluido el
Having concluded our photography session, we will now open the floor for the official closing of COP, the opening ceremony of COP10. The President is recognized.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. All protocol observed. What a wonderful and memorable occasion it has been. Thank you for the wonderful performance. Thank you to the Honorable Minister. Thank you to the Vice Minister of Health, Welfare and Sports from the Netherlands. Thank you to all the speakers, WHO. Thank you so much. We really had a wonderful time, and we really value every word you spoke this afternoon. With those words, I now declare agenda items 3 and 4 closed. Thank you. May I call the conference to order? Order, please. Distinguished delegates, I understand that there is a party that was mistakenly left out when we were on agenda item 2, and the party wanted to make a regional statement. We are not reopening the agenda item as it has already been closed. However, I would like to know from the party if they would still like to make a statement. Maldives, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Maldives take the first floor for the first time, we would like to thank you, the government of Panama, for their extensive arrangement of COP10. Maldives making the statement on behalf of Southeast Asia region. The Southeast Asia region wishes to recognize the role of civil society has played advocating a strong, effective FCTC and continue to do in support parties in its implementation. The parties from our region work closely with civil society in strengthening our national tobacco control policy and program. As regards agenda item 2, application of status of observation to the COP, we are delegated to see the 3 civil society organizations with credible history of contributing to tobacco control regionally and globally have expressed to join as observers to the COP. We believe their expertise would enable linking FCTC with broader non-communicable disease and develop agendas and endorse approval of the applications and welcome them to enrich the COP process. We note with the concerns the overwhelming application to the COP from organizations with interests that are contrary to the objective of the treaty. We congratulate the Bureau and the Convention Secretary for their recognizing the security of all observation application in line with well laid down guidance. We agreed with the Bureau recommendation to reject the application of 13 organizations listed as not meeting with requirements. Madam Chair, this application also points to the broader treaty to COP from tobacco industry in integrated groups. It reminds us importance of strictly implementing measures gain conflict of interest at the COP. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Maldives. Distinguished delegates, we shall now continue with our afternoon session, and we shall proceed to agenda item 5 on the global progress in implementation of the WHO FCTC, which will be followed by a general debate. I invite you to refer to document FCTC/COP/10/4. I am pleased to give the floor to Dr. Adriana Blanco Maquizo, the head of the Convention Secretariat, to say a few words in this regard. Dr. Blanco, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Really, I don't think that I need to add, because part of what I wanted to highlight from the global report I already said in my inaugural speech. So I think that the important thing is to realize that we are still moving ahead, and there has been progress, but unfortunately that progress has not been at the speed that we would like to see. So I think that I will not take too much time. This is a very straightforward agenda item, and more than anything, this is the open for the floor for the parties to make their statements. So,
thank you, Dr. Blanco. I now open the floor for the general debate and wish to recall the theme chosen for the Bureau for this discussion: Together Promoting Healthier Lives. I would also like to remind you that delegations have 4 minutes for group and regional statements. 4 minutes for group and regional statements and 3 minutes for individual statements. For this agenda item, delegations are requested to indicate their wish to deliver a statement in advance. We shall therefore start with the interventions by the delegations that have notified the Secretariat of their intention to speak, in the order of the reception of the relevant request by the Secretariat. We shall therefore start with the European Union, to be followed by Egypt and Ukraine, who shall render regional statements. We will then move on to individual statements by New Zealand, India, the United Kingdom, Singapore, Philippines, China, Mexico, Kazakhstan, Brazil, Australia, Japan, Russian Federation, Spain, Republic of Moldova, Armenia, Thailand, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, the Republic of Korea, Lao People's Democratic Republic. The parties that I've just called are invited to raise their nameplates to signal their readiness to speak. Should a delegation not be ready to deliver its statement when they are called, we will move on to the next one on the list and get back to them once their nameplate is raised again. I would now like to give the floor to the European Union.
Honorable Ministers, Ambassadors, distinguished delegates, I am honored to address the parties and the global tobacco control community, speaking on behalf of the European Union, its 27 member states, and their 450 million citizens. I thank the FCTC Secretariat and the World Health Organization and the host country, Panama, for preparing this session of the Conference of the Parties to the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. The European Union has always vigorously supported multilateralism, and we will continue to do so. We have been at the forefront of tobacco control and have been a driving force in negotiating the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control and its protocol, which is now an important component of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And yet, at the midway point of the 2030 Agenda, 85% of the SDGs targets are off track. Worse, nearly a third of the targets are in regression. Tobacco consumption continues to be a devastating impact on health, healthcare, spending, and also serious socioeconomic impacts such as poverty and inequalities, as well as environmental impacts. It is taking a heavy toll on young generations and our health system. In this context, stepping up our efforts for the comprehensive implementation of the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control at global, regional, and country level should remain our priority. This is also our shared responsibility, and we are committed to continue working with you to deliver. Let us be guided in this by the priorities of the Global Strategy to Accelerate Tobacco Control 2019-2025. In the European Union, we have established ambitious tobacco control legislation and policy, and yet smoking rates remain high. We are determined to deliver on Europe's Beating Cancer plan and create a tobacco-free generation by 2040. To do so, we are currently evaluating the legislative framework for tobacco control and will take the necessary measures to improve it. We are also revising the Council recommendation on smoke-free environments to better protect Europeans, especially children and young people, from exposure to second-hand smoke and aerosols. And as a response for their fast-growing market share and popularity among young, we have introduced a EU-wide ban on flavored heated tobacco products applicable as of October last year. Our objectives go hand in hand with the better implementation of the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. We should address emerging challenges if it is to deliver genuine public health benefits. Thus, the European Union supports an ambitious agenda for this COP10, especially in view of decisions different from the previous COP. Faced with the rapidly growing market for novel and emerging tobacco, as well as nicotine products, we must redouble our joint efforts. To effectively curb the growing use by young people, we must move ahead with our work on cross-border tobacco advertising, promotion and sponsorship in all types of media, notably digital and media communication platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, the tobacco and nicotine addiction epidemic is a global problem requiring global solutions and joint actions. We need to protect young people from harmful exposure from traditional and emerging tobacco products that are so damaging to health. This requires serious and collective efforts at international level, free of influence from the tobacco industry and other vested interests. We remain fully committed to the FCTC, and by working together this week, we can take a vital step forward in our global tobacco control agenda. Together, we can deliver sustainable progress and pave the way for a tobacco-free world where people can enjoy healthy lives with no one left behind. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Very well done.
Thank you, European Union. Egypt, you have the floor.
شكرا للسيدة الرئيس. الزملاء الأعزاء، أقدم هذا البيان.
Thank you, President. Honorable delegates, we are making this statement on behalf of the EMRO Group. We would like to begin by expressing our thanks to Panama for holding this session of the Conference of the Parties. Your excellent organization and your hospitality are giving us an ideal environment to carry out our discussions and will favor cooperation on this very important question. We have come together in person once again, and this is a historic moment for all of us. For those who believe in the cause and the necessity to fight against tobacco and nicotine, and in particular fighting the tobacco industry, whose products are responsible for the deaths of 1 out of every 2 consumers. We are facing a large number of challenges which have an impact on our ability to prioritize the fight against tobacco, such as crises and emergencies in a number of countries, natural disasters, political challenges in various countries, and the ongoing efforts of the tobacco industry to thwart our efforts in the fight against tobacco. We hope that this meeting and the decisions that will result from it will allow us to strengthen our mobilization and to deal with essential questions which are on the agenda, in particular dealing with new products and a total ban on on advertising and promoting tobacco products, and in particular looking at Articles 9, 10 and 19. These are fundamental debates which we look forward to and look forward to participating in this. We want to promote this at the national level as well. The consensus that we hope to achieve here will not only concern the fight against tobacco at the national level, but we will be creating efficient tools to protect younger generations which are facing the methods used by the tobacco industry, by false and very aggressive advertising around the world. We will not be able to protect future generations if we do not have shared efforts in the framework of the efforts based on evidence and on data. We have seen a number of successes, such as the adoption of the plain packaging, and we have made fighting tobacco a priority in Egypt and Iraq, and King Abdullah in Jordan has also made statements personally on this question. We are adopting measures against advertising, and in Sudan we have seen initiatives for cities without tobacco. In Mecca and Medina in Saudi Arabia and in Qom in Iran. We are renewing our interest in the fight against tobacco, and we are working in a serious manner in spite of this environment where we see a number of challenges. Honourable colleagues, I would like to take this opportunity to express our thanks to the Secretariat of the FCTC, and in particular to the President of the Secretariat, Ms. Adriana Blanco, for the support they have given to the Mediterranean region, and we would call on the Secretariat to further support our member states. We would like to thank the WHO and the Regional Bureau for their ongoing support, and we remain convinced that these efforts will be continued. As a regional group, we wish to support this conference and its work in every way possible in order to achieve results that will benefit all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Egypt. Ukraine, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. En primer lugar, quiero unir mi...
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to begin by joining others who have thanked the government of Panama for the excellent organization of this event that is hugely important.
Dear colleagues, I have the honor to speak on behalf of the delegation of Ukraine, as well on behalf of the delegation of Canada, United Kingdom, and the United States. We resolutely condemn the Russian Federation's unprovoked and illegal war against Ukraine, which undermines global security and stability and constitutes an egregious violation of international law, including the United Nations Charter. It has triggered one of the fastest and largest human displacement crises in the world, following the effort of Ukraine's population to flee their homes. We deplore the Russian Federation's continuous attacks against the critical infrastructure across Ukraine, including attacks on the healthcare facilities in Ukraine, documented by the WHO surveillance system for attacks on healthcare. We underscore the fact that the Russian Federation's aggression against Ukraine constitutes the exceptional threat to the health of the population of Ukraine and has health impacts beyond the region, as well as undermines public health by provoking increase in tobacco and nicotine products consumption. We recall the decision on the 8th Conference of the Parties FCTC/COP10 tobacco control in complex emergency situations. Then parties acknowledged the great challenge in implementing the WHO FCTC during complex emergency situations that leads to an increase in tobacco use, addiction, and the risk of tobacco-related diseases. We strongly condemn the Russian Federation's temporary occupation of parts of Ukraine's territory, including the Autonomous Republic of Crimea, the city of Sevastopol, in certain areas of Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Lugansk region. Ukraine, facing a complex emergency, has been continuously fulfilling its obligations under WHO FCTC. We call upon the conference party to urgently address the issue of tobacco control during the and after armed conflicts, natural and human-caused disasters, and health and other emergency. And they address the impacts on the implementation of tobacco control measures. Thank you.
To the topic under debate. Order, please. Can we move on to the next speaker? If Ukraine does not have anything to discuss under the topic under debate, we will move on to the next speaker, which will be, we'll move on to individual statements, and I will give the floor to New Zealand.
Kia ora. We will open with a short cultural greeting. Kua tāwhiti ke tō mātou, haerenga mai, kia koe e haere tonu. He nui rawa o mahi, kia kore e mahi tonu, kia haere tonu mātou. We have come too far not to go further. We have done too much not to do more. We must keep going. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Greetings to you all, and thank you for the opportunity to address the Conference of the Parties. New Zealand has made great strides in implementing the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. Since the 9th session of the Conference of Parties, we have achieved a number of significant milestones. Overall, the daily smoking rate in New Zealand is now down to 6.8%, down from 8.6% the previous year, and 16.4% in 2011-2012. We are proud of this progress and how close we are reaching our smoke-free goal of less than 5%. We have achieved this through a mix of FCTC endorsed measures, including regulation, community-based initiatives, and targeted stop smoking support. Our approach has also involved a considered implementation of evidence-based harm reduction measures. This includes making a range of nicotine replacement products available to people who smoke, including therapeutic products like patches, gum, and stop smoking medicines. We have regulated vaping products under our smoke-free legislation. This has included restrictions on where they can be sold and who can sell them, advertising and sponsorship bans, bans on vaping in smoke-free spaces, and bans on selling to those under the age of 18. Despite smoking rates having reduced for all groups of New Zealanders, daily smoking rates for Māori, low-income earners, adults with disabilities, and people experiencing mental distress and addiction issues are higher than others. To achieve 5% daily smoking rates for all populations, we will continue to be ambitious and deliberate. In addition to our existing evidence-based tobacco control strategies, we are focused on providing people with practical tools and support to help them to become smoke-free. We're investing in support for people who smoke, including collaboratively designed public health campaigns and targeted stop smoking services. New Zealand is proud to be party to the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control and of the continued commitment of the parties to reduce the harm caused by tobacco products. We look forward to collaborating with you all and to the successful outcomes of the 10th session of the Conference of the Parties. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Thank you, New Zealand. The floor is now open to Cook Islands, who have requested to make a group statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the first to take the floor, I also join to thank and congratulate the Government of Panama for hosting us here this week. The COP10 President, distinguished delegates, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Pacific Islands, including the Cook Islands, Fiji, Kiribati, the Marshall Islands, Nauru, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, the Solomon Islands, Tonga, Tuvalu, and Vanuatu, I offer congratulations to the Convention Secretariat and note the report on global progress in implementation of the WHO FCTC. Many Pacific Islands have made progress with FCTC implementation since the last report. Since the cut-off date of the report in December 2022, many Pacific Islands continued to make progress in FCTC implementation. Fiji, Nauru, Samoa, and the Solomon Islands further increased taxes on tobacco products. Fiji, Kiribati, Palau, the Solomon Islands, and Vanuatu strengthened capacity to deliver tobacco cessation services in primary health care. The Cook Islands, Palau, and Papua New Guinea revitalized their National Multi-Sectoral Tobacco Control Committee. With the Cook Islands, they rolled out of a Smoke-Free Islands initiative, including youth and outer islands. Fiji, Nauru, and Tonga strengthened enforcement of smoke-free and tobacco advertising, promotion bans, and bans on sales to minors through multi-sectoral collaboration. The Marshall Islands and the Solomon Islands undertook global youth tobacco surveys. Palau banned the import, distribution, sale, and possession of e-cigarettes. Tobacco industry interference is a persistent challenge, which is often implemented through attempts to engage and mislead those in the non-health sector. Other challenges is interpreting the detrimental health and environmental impacts of tobacco include newer tobacco products, such as heated tobacco products, and the increase in the availability and use of e-cigarettes even in our most remote islands. Madam Chair, I thank you.
Thank you, Cook's Island. India, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, I am honored to represent India and provide an overview of our nation's effort in tobacco control. India has made significant strides in aligning our policies with the WHO FCTC guidelines to curb tobacco demand as well as supply. India has played a pivotal role as the key facilitator in the Working Group on Tobacco Advertising, Promotion, and Sponsorship in Entertainment Media. We have also served as a member in various working groups and expert groups addressing issues such as implementation of Article 9 and 10 of the WHO FCTC, enforcement, information sharing, assistance, cooperation, and the elimination of illicit trade in tobacco products. India was also one of the countries which volunteered for the implementation review mechanism, showcasing our commitment to global tobacco control. The Global Monitoring Framework for NCDs aims to reduce tobacco prevalence by 15% by 2020 and 30% by 2025 from the 2010 baseline levels. India has already made significant progress, achieving the 2020 target with a 17.3% reduction in tobacco use as per the second GATS report of India. We are on track to achieve the 2025 global target if we maintain or accelerate our current pace of tobacco control measures. The Indian government has actively implemented measures to reduce the consumption of various tobacco products, including cigarettes, bidis, and smokeless tobacco. We have also made substantial stride in implementing WHO FCTC Articles 9 and 10, establishing 4 tobacco testing laboratories, which are also a part of WHO's tobacco laboratory network. And these laboratories play a central role in generating evidence for policy change. Moving forward in the direction of product regulation, we have set up 2 specialized groups of experts, namely the National Tobacco Regulators Forum and the Scientific Support Group, housed at premier medical institutes of India to provide direction, recommendations, and guidelines in shaping effective policies and regulations. India has also resolutely instituted a comprehensive nationwide ban on electronic cigarettes in 2019. This ban encompasses all categories of electronic nicotine delivery systems, heat-not-burn products, e-hookahs, and similar devices. India's unwavering dedication to preserving public health continues to guide us in adopting proactive measures aimed at mitigating the escalating prevalence of vaping, particularly among the younger generation. India has also made notable progress in regulating tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship in line with Article 13 of the WHO FCTC, especially in the realm of online content. We have recently notified COTPA Amendment Rules 2023, extending existing regulation to over-the-top media platforms with the objective of curbing the depiction of tobacco products. A reporting portal for online violations has also been launched, ensuring compliance with the country's information technology rules of 2021. We believe that India's OTT rules serves as a beacon of hope, offering a blueprint for countries grappling with the complexities of regulating online curated contents. India's approach will not only safeguard the well-being of its citizens, but will also serve to inspire the global community and protect the younger generation from the tobacco epidemic. We remain steadfast in addressing industry interference, adhering to Article 5.3, and ensuring that public health decisions remain free from vested interests of the tobacco industry. In conclusion, India remains resolute in its dedication to the WHO FCTC and its objectives. We are ready to collaborate with fellow nations and share experiences as we collectively work towards a tobacco-free world. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, India. May I remind parties to stick to the 3 minutes that is allocated for individual statements, 3 minutes only. Distinguished delegates, there is a party that has requested a right of reply, and may I assure the party that this will be considered before the end of the session. I will now give the floor to the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to be here with delegations who are joining together to promote healthier lives. For 20 years, the Convention has played a critical role, setting the blueprint for reducing smoking rates and supporting countries to protect people from devastating harm. As other parties, the UK wants a tobacco-free future. And to do this, we must stop our children and young people from taking up smoking. This is why the UK is taking historic action to create the first smoke-free generation. We will be introducing legislation which will make it illegal to sell tobacco products to anyone born on or after the 1st of January 2009. This will, in effect, raise the age of sale on tobacco year on year. We do not want our children to grow up to be smokers. This change will make it a reality. Alongside this, we have also recently announced significant new funding to support smokers to quit. We have more than doubled our funding to local stop smoking services across England and are rolling out an innovative financial incentive scheme to support pregnant smokers and their partners to quit, protecting our most vulnerable citizens from the harms of tobacco. We are also taking decisive action to reduce the appeal and availability of vapes to children, including by introducing a ban on disposable vapes. No child should use tobacco, and no child or non-smoker should use a vape. These new policies demonstrate the UK's commitment to the FCTC and our dedication to protecting the population from the harms of tobacco and our children from the risks from nicotine. I look forward to sharing the UK's experience of implementing the important articles of the Convention and to hear from other parties about their successes and challenges. We must unite and act as one to overcome the deadly impact of tobacco and support the world's population to live healthier, longer lives.
Thank you, United Kingdom. Singapore, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to make a short statement on Singapore's progress in the implementation of the WHO FCTC. Singapore takes a comprehensive, multi-pronged approach to tobacco control, including policy and legislative measures, preventive education, and support for cessation efforts. In recent years, we have implemented additional policy measures. In 2018, we extended our long-standing ban on e-cigarettes to comprehensively cover possession, use, and purchase. In 2020, we implemented standardized packaging with enlarged graphic health warnings for all tobacco products. In 2021, we increased the minimum legal age for tobacco to 21 years. In 2023, we raised tobacco excise duties for all tobacco products by 15%. Last year, we also launched our National Preventive Health Strategy, Healthier Singapore, or Healthier SG for short, where we encourage all Singaporeans to build a trusted and lifelong relationship with their primary care doctors. Under Healthier SG, primary care doctors will play an active and important role in smokers' quit journey by referring them to smoking cessation counselling services and following up closely on their progress. At COP10, we shared that with strong support from society, parliament, and the government, Singapore achieved a decade-long decline in smoking prevalence, and our lowest recorded smoking prevalence of 10.1% in 2020. Today, I'm happy to share that our smoking prevalence has dropped further to 9.2% in 2022. Singapore's experience shows that reducing smoking prevalence and the strong stance to ban alternative tobacco and nicotine products, such as e-cigarettes, are not mutually exclusive. In fact, the ban on e-cigarettes is critical to Singapore's tobacco control strategy to work towards achieving a nicotine-free future for Singapore. The ban forms a strong foundation for our efforts to counter global trends of increased e-cigarette use in youth, with attendant concerns on direct harms and gateway effects. Ladies and gentlemen, WHO FCTC obligations are the floor and not the ceiling. I would like to encourage all parties to continue strengthening tobacco control measures, even beyond the WHO FCTC, to promote healthier lives and to protect present and future generations from the harms of these products. Thank you.
Thank you, Singapore. Philippines?
Excellencies, the Philippines welcomes the positive strides that parties have made, but also acknowledges the remaining challenges. In the past 2 decades, the Philippines has made notable progress in implementing the WHO FCTC. We are proud to share that the Philippine Global Adult Tobacco Survey reported a significant decrease in tobacco use from 23.8% in 2015 to 19.5% in 2021. This key achievement is a result of a collective and balanced approach, where with whole of society and whole of government efforts in advocating for implementing effective policies and legislative measures. In line with Articles 5.1 and 5.2a of the FCTC, we have strengthened our multi-sectoral national strategy on tobacco regulation, as well as our tobacco regulation coordinating mechanism. In 2022, the Philippines enacted Vaporized Nicotine and Non-Nicotine Products Regulation Act. This landmark legislation establishes a comprehensive and differentiated regulatory framework for the importation, manufacture, sale, packaging, distribution, use and communication of vaporized nicotine and non-nicotine products, along with other novel tobacco products. This is in addition to the various legislative measures we already have in place, such as the Tobacco Regulation Act of 2003, the Graphic Health Warning Law, and the excise tax laws on novel tobacco products. This new safeguards minors by restricting the sale, including online trade, distribution, and marketing of these products, and prohibits tobacco product-related activities within 100 meters of schools, playgrounds, and facilities frequented by minors. The Philippines is also pleased to share that funding for essential government services, including the majority of universal health care and COVID-19 recovery initiatives, among others, as well as infrastructure projects such as farm-to-market roads, schools, hospitals, and rural health facilities are sourced from excise taxes on tobaccos and vapor products, which in 2022 amounted to almost $3 billion. In adherence to FCTC Article 6, since enacting the relevant law in 2012, the Philippines has consistently increased excise tax rates on cigarettes and tobacco products, making cigarettes less affordable and consequently decreasing consumption. In addition, the Philippines is currently in the process of enacting legislation entitled the Anti-Agricultural Economic Sabotage Act that declares smuggling of tobacco as economic sabotage and aims to abate illicit tobacco trade in the Philippines. Excellencies, we emphasize the importance of a tailored, multi-sectoral approach to FCTC implementation, acknowledging Article 1D of FCTC, varying national contexts and priorities, and domestic legislation. The Philippines will continue to engage constructively in dialogue, collaboration, and share its experience with fellow parties of this conference to overcome the various challenges in realizing the aim of the convention as part of our unwavering commitment to the WHO FCTC. On behalf of the Philippine delegation, maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Philippines. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Because of the time limit, I would give some main points. The full text will be provided to the Secretariat for reference. So only main points. Thank you, delegates. I'm very honored to attend the COP10 at the 20th anniversary of its adoption. I would like to thank Republic of Panama for hosting this conference. Since the COP9, the Chinese government attached great importance to public health. We support the objectives of the convention by faithful implementation with remarkable progress. Three aspects. On policies and laws, we have comprehensive plan, strategy. We have Healthy China Action Plan, the policy documents, and also in different provinces levels, we have strengthened legislation, local legislation. And on e-cigarettes, we have new regulations put in place. We strengthened the publicity regulation and, for example, the measures of regulating internet publicity. The tobacco products, including e-cigarettes, are forbidden to have publicity on internet. And also we promote a smoke-free environment, including government agencies, schools, families even. We also have some specific projects targeted the minors. Survey results show that in 2022, people aged 15 and over was 2.5% lower compared to that of 2018. And the price of cigarettes increased year by year. We also promote alternative livelihood to growing. We have the decrease in the growers' numbers and the areas, growing areas, and we also fight against illicit activities in 2022, and they are the fake or illicit smuggled cigarettes. The smuggled cigarette concern is about 6 billion pieces of cigarettes, and the illicit trade, the part is controlled about 4% of the total sales. We also promote stop smoking through the platforms to promote stop smoking with the different platforms to provide services, and also in accordance one country, two system principle we would like to give a brief presentation on activities in Hong Kong and in Macau. In Hong Kong, is stepping up its legislation and administrative measures to decrease the use and passive smoking impact. In 2022, Hong Kong amended relevant legislation to prohibit importation, manufacture, distribution, and promotion of new and emerging tobacco products, including e-cigarettes.
You've run out of time. Thank you very much.
And now I would like to give 2022 in Macau continues to strengthen tobacco control in various approaches and to ban the use and even carrying of e-cigarettes. People aged 15 and above in Macau the smoking rate decreased from 17 in 2008 to 11 in 2022. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, China. Delegates, please stick to the 3 minutes. 3 minutes for individual statements. Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias. Thank you. I greet the President and the Deputy Presidents of the 10th session of the Conference of Parties of the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. I'd like to convey my country's appreciation for the great work carried out by the Executive Secretariat and the Government of Panama to hold this conference, and we are grateful for the opportunity to participate on behalf of the Government of Mexico in this important conference. Mexico is celebrating 20 years since our signing of the WHO FCTC, and we are pleased to be the first country in the Americas to ratify this instrument, and we took on the commitment to protect present and future generations from the devastating consequences of the consumption of tobacco products, including involuntary inhalation of secondhand smoke. Our government has made great progress in strengthening our policies to control tobacco. I should just mention that in 2019 to 2023, we have promoted development and consolidation of public policies for tobacco control to ensure our protection, the protection of our population from secondhand smoke, and to live in smoke-free environments, to strengthen the measures to protect our population from the interests of the tobacco industry and vested interests, and so as to reduce deaths due to NCDs and also to achieve the SDGs. Mexico implemented various initiatives, and I wanted to highlight the following. In line with Article 2.1, to promote the best interests of the child and to protect the most vulnerable groups from the consequences of dependence on nicotine. In 2022, we had an absolute ban on the use, distribution, marketing, circulation, distribution, and transit through our national territory of any type of tobacco products and emerging and novel tobacco products. There was a recent legislative initiative for a total ban on these products and any additive or compounds or mixtures to produce such tobacco products. With respect to 5.2 and 5.1, we implemented a national strategy to prevent addiction. With respect to Article 5.3, we have worked with the Commission, Senate Committee to raise senators' awareness on the interference from the tobacco industry. With respect to implementation of Article 8, our country, in addition to the ban on consumption of heated tobacco products, also placed a ban on the consumption of novel and emerging products in indoor and outdoor spaces. This is addresses anywhere where people congregate. We are the 9th country in the Americas with a comprehensive ban on any advertising, publicity, or sponsorship of tobacco products. With respect to international cooperation assistance, we have support under the Bloomberg Initiative, and we have PAHO support and the Johns Hopkins Institute support as well. Thank you very much for your attention. Never again should we have a soul without a body or a body without a soul. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mexico. I will now give the floor to Russia for the right of reply as requested. And I'm afraid Russia will be the last speaker for today. We will resume tomorrow for more discussions on this agenda item. Russia, you have the floor.
Thank you, President. We are deeply disappointed by the efforts of certain delegations to politicize this event. There are currently, according to international assessments, over 180 regional conflicts. And there are specialized political platforms that exist to discuss these, above all, the UN Security Council. The politicization of a conference of the parties undermines international efforts to protect people from tobacco. We would very much like international cooperation in the area of healthcare not to be held hostage by the opportunistic interests of certain countries and the corporations which are supported by these countries. We would like to thank the President for the timely call to order, and we would call on all states to conduct this dialogue in a professional manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Russia. Colleagues, thank you very much for the fruitful discussions that we've had today.
What they're asking.
European Union, are you requesting a right of reply? You have the floor.
I have the honor to speak on behalf of the European Union and its member states in reaction to the statement made by Ukraine. At the outset, let me express the EU and its member states' full solidarity with Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. The European Union condemns in the strongest possible terms Russia's unprovoked and justified war of aggression against Ukraine, which grossly violates international law and the United Nations Charter, and undermines international security and stability. The European Union demands that Russia immediately cease its military actions, withdraw all its troops from the entire territory of Ukraine, and fully respects Ukraine's territorial integrity.
Your call to order. That is not a right of reply. I'm sorry, we have to move on.
We will submit the statement in writing to be recorded in the meeting, please.
Order, please. Who's next? Colleagues, I was thanking you for the fruitful discussions today, and I will now conclude our second plenary session. We will resume with the general debate under agenda item 5 tomorrow morning in the third plenary session starting at 10 a.m. But before that, we will proceed now with the election of the officers of the. Tomorrow, we will commence with the election of the officers of the committees so that Committee B can start with its work in parallel. I therefore urge all the regions to come to an agreement on the officers and to notify the Secretariat by tomorrow morning. Before we adjourn, I would like to find out from the Convention Secretariat if they have any announcements.
Distinguished delegates, we would like to remind you that there is a cocktail organized by the government of Panama at 7 o'clock, and there will be other surprises that Panama has been organizing for all delegates and delegations. Please follow the ushers outside, and you'll see that the cocktail will be in the lobby of the convention center. Thank you.
Distinguished delegates, thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned, and I wish you all a pleasant evening.